Amazing reveal. How a street girl transformed a wealthy widower's son's life in just 30 days. The sun glared down on the upscale suburban streets of Southern California like it always did, but today, it ignited a fire in Emma's heart. 17, scrappy and tougher than a $2 steak, she roamed the pristine sidewalks, her bare feet taking on the pulse of the neighborhood beneath her. The rich lived in blissful opulence, wrapped in their designer clothes, while she weaved through the world they thrown away, looking for scraps both food and opportunity. She had dreams, big ones, of being her own boss, of turning her life into something golden instead of the dull gray she often lived in. It was the kind of day where anything could happen. The cacophony of laughter from children playing in perfectly manicured lawns mixed with the sound of engines revving. That was when he appeared, a boy with tousled hair and a gleaming Jetta, pulled out from the sea of privilege and expectation. Jake. A product of everything Emma despised, but also everything she was desperate to understand. Suddenly, their worlds collided in the dusty park, where she was juggling flyers for her handmade jewelry while Jake, feeling suffocated by the weight of his family name, was attempting to escape. The way he looked at her, curious, almost shocked, made her spine tingle. He saw the courage in her that day. It was the first time someone in his world noticed that people like Emma existed. "What are you doing here?" he asked, stealing a glance at the makeshift booth. Emma blinked, her heart racing. Was he seriously standing there, acting like he was interested? Trying to sell something? He chuckled, but it wasn't unkind. "Yeah, if you want to support a girl trying to make it." She smirked back, locking eyes with him. As they shared awkward laughs, a magnetic energy drew them together, almost alarming in its intensity. Each word Emma spoke was a punch of raw honesty, her dreams articulated like lifelines thrown into Jake's turbulent sea of expectations. That thrill hung between them like an electric wire, ready to spark. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The clock ticked down to a fateful 30 days that would turn both their lives upside down. Emma turned her ideas into community projects, dragged Jake into her orbit, teaching him the real meaning of giving back. Neighborhood cleanups and food drives became their shared mission. But shadows lurked nearby. Whispers of doubt crept into their happiness. Jake's friends raised brows, questioning why he hung around that girl, while Emma fought back the skepticism of a world that saw her as invisible. Just as they started finding their footing, an unforeseen betrayal rocked their alliance. Would Jake lean into the chaos or support Emma? Would Emma maintain her dream against the tide? A storm brewed on the horizon, one that threatened to tear them apart. Mistrust, jealousy, it was all about to blow up. Their connection shimmered with possibility, or would it fracture under the weight of expectations? Uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud as they took their next breath, setting the stage for a transformation neither could anticipate. The following morning, Emma woke up with sunlight creeping through the thin fabric of her curtains, illuminating the cluttered space that had always felt like a prison. Today it felt different. The weight of yesterday's uncertainty was still there, but she could also sense a shift, a kindling spark, maybe hope, igniting her determination. She had a meeting today with Jake. It was just the two of them, brainstorming ideas for their next community project. They had talked about reaching out to local businesses for sponsorship, giving their efforts a little more legitimacy. Jake seemed game for it, but in the back of her mind, a nagging dread lingered. It was the questions his friends had thrown at him. What's the deal with that girl? They lingered like smoke in the air. Emma brushed her hair back with trembling fingers, forcing herself to focus. She needed to be fearless, just like when they had met in the park. Their laughter, so pure and unfettered, rang in her ears. Whatever doubts were waiting to creep in couldn't win. Not today. When she arrived at the local cafe, Jake was already seated by the window, fidgeting with his phone. The moment their eyes met, a rush of excitement intermingled with a sense of caution washed over her. "Hey," she called out, half smiling, envisioning the conversation flowing smoothly. "Hey, you look loaded with energy," he shot back, But there was something behind his smile that felt off, like he was trying too hard to mask a storm brewing just beneath the surface. As they settled in, Emma immediately pitched her ideas: the food drive, the neighborhood cleanup. Jake listened intently, nodding along as she spoke, but she could see his eyes wander every so often, his attention slipping like grains of sand between his fingers. She chose to ignore it, kept throwing out ideas, feeling hopeful even when the spark in his gaze dulled. But then it happened. Jake's phone buzzed with aggressive urgency. "Sorry, I just need to check this," he muttered, his face contorting as he stared at the screen. She could feel the air thickening between them. That stray line of connection they built was fraying, unraveling thread by thread. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked, her heart racing at the sight of his ashen expression. She could sense the shift. It was palpable and electric, like the charge before a storm. "Yeah, just it's complicated." He stumbled over his words, a shadow of irritation crossing his face. "It's about the charity event. My mom." As he paused, glancing up as if he expected someone to walk in. "Your mom?" Emma pushed, feeling a tightening knot in her stomach. "What does she have to do with this?" "She's not exactly on board with my plans. You know how she is." The door jingled, interrupting the moment as a couple of Jake's friends stepped in, their laughter echoing. Emma's gut twisted. "Just a second," Jake said sharply, shifting his focus to them. The warm bubble they had created just moments before popped. She could feel the change in him, how his body tightened, the way his smile faded to a taut line. They were hovering over Jake, whispering and casting glances her way, laughing too loudly. Emma's heart sank. The laughter was a knife to the gut. She had hoped he would stand up for her, would break the chains binding him to their shallow judgments. Instead, he squeezed out a forced smile, drifted back into their world, and for that split second she felt invisible again. What would he choose? Would Jake fall back into line and abandon what they had built? With every brittle second stretching between them, Emma fought against her insecurities. She refused to let their whispers dictate her worth. "I need to go," she finally said, voice steady but heart shaking. She didn't want to hear him make excuses as Emma turned to walk away, the weight of disappointment crashing over her like icy water. A thought jolted through her. Could this be the end of everything they had built together? The pathway seemed obscured, a fog closing in on her dreams. Just as she reached the cafe's door, a firm grip wrapped around her wrist. Was Jake, his eyes wide with urgency, gripping her tightly as he whispered, "Wait. We need to talk." What was he about to say that could change everything? Emma's breath caught in her throat. Jake's grip snapped her attention back. The moment felt electric, like the air before a storm. He stared into her eyes, his expression a cocktail of panic and resolve. "Seriously, Emma, you can't walk away like this. Not right now." "What is it?" Her voice trembled. She could feel the weight of the cafe, 100 eyes already pondering their little drama. "Why do you want to talk?" "I don't know how to say this," he began, shaking his head. "But it's about my mom and you." He hesitated, clearly struggling with how to piece the words together. Inside her, a whirlwind of dread spun at the thought of his mother being a barrier. What did she say? His eyes flared with frustration. Not just what she said. It's more than that. She threatened. He glanced around, lowering his voice. She threatened to pull funding for the event. For us, for everything we planned. She believes you're distracting me from my real responsibilities. Emma's heart sank. It was like a physical blow. The prospect of losing everything they worked for loomed threateningly, darkening her vision. "But I thought this meant something to you too. We can make a difference." Her tone spilled over with raw desperation, the fire in her chest flickering. "It does. It really does," he insisted. "But you don't understand. It's complicated. If I don't make her happy." He paused, the weight of familial expectations hanging between them like a shadow. "I can't afford to lose her support." His words struck her like a wave. A dizzying swirl of anger and sadness threatened to drown out her resolve. "So you're choosing her over us?" "No, it's not that simple. I'm just trying to figure out how to please her while still believing in all of this." He motioned between them. The confusion in his eyes danced dangerously close to despair. Emma's stomach turned. "You promise we could do this together? Please just listen," he pleaded, desperation spilling into his voice. "If we can convince my mom, if we show her that we're serious, maybe she'll change her mind." The weight of his situation squashed her beneath its enormity. She wanted to scream, to shake him and demand he choose her. Instead, a single tear slipped down her cheek. And what if she never will? What if this is all a waste? Jake's face twisted with pain as he sought for her gaze. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. Emma, I believe in you. In us. If we can tackle this together. But just as the sincerity flowed between them, the door swung open again. This time it was not laughter that poured in, it was a figure that sent a chill through Emma's spine. A woman sharply dressed with an aura that commanded the room. Jake's mother. Emma's breath hitched. She sensed her arrival like a dark omen. Jake turned, his face paling, panic flaring in his expression. Emma's heart raced. The last thread of hope she had clung to was fraying fast. Jake, his mother called, her voice slicing through the chit-chat. We need to talk. Now. He shot Emma a look, one of those lingering glances that spoke volumes. It echoed, begging for understanding. A plea, a desperation to find a way through this turmoil. As Jake moved toward his mom, it hit her this was the moment everything could change. Would he confront his mother and stand up for their shared vision? Or would he cave under the pressure she exuded? Emma's core locked tight with uncertainty. There was a choice to be made between loyalty to family and the fragile connection they were fostering. Jake. She felt the words clawing at her throat, desperate to break free. He turned back. Wait, she said, feeling the earth shift beneath her feet. Whatever happens, you need to decide what's really important to you with that. Emma braced for the impending storm, the clash of familial duty versus their shared dreams. What would it mean for them? Jake's answer sat just beyond the door, ready to unfold. Emma felt the weight of the cafe settle heavily on her shoulders. The eyes around them, once indifferent, now flared with curiosity and anticipation. Her heart hammered as Jake stepped towards his mother, the echo of their earlier conversation reverberating in her mind. Jake, we really need to talk about your future. His mother's voice was crisp, laced with authority. She looked over her shoulder as if assessing the crowd, the power dynamic shifting with every glance. Emma watched Jake's jaw tighten, an internal battle visible on his face. The pit in her stomach deepened. This wasn't just about their dreams anymore. It was about who got to control them. She could almost hear the gears grinding in his mind, each thought screaming for him to stand firm against his mother. Mom, Jake started, his voice just above a whisper. I was hoping we could discuss. Let us not waste time with pleasantries. His mother interrupted, her sharp eyes narrowing. Your position is clear. You have a responsibility to your family and to our company. This, she gestured dismissively toward Emma, is a distraction, and you know it. The word hit Emma like a fist to the gut. Distraction. Her hands trembled at her sides as she fought back the urge to defend herself. Does she not see everything they've built together? Mom, you can't say that. Emma and I were working towards something big, Jake challenged, his voice gaining strength, but Emma could still hear the fear lurking behind his words. Something big. His mother scoffed, a sly smile curling on her lips. You mean a naive plan that will lead to nothing? I made you, Jake. You need to make choices that reflect our family's legacy, not chase shadows. The heat of embarrassment washed over Emma, mingling with rage. She could feel the judgment of the cafe like a physical presence. They were not mere onlookers. They were witnesses to her potential failure. Do you even hear yourself? Jake shot back. This is my life. This is your life. His mother reiterated, her voice raising just enough to silence the diners around them. Your life is part of this family, and you need to understand the consequences of your choices. The tension crackled, igniting Emma's instinct to protect herself and what they had established. Suddenly she stepped forward, adrenaline surging. Yes, right. This isn't just a distraction to him. I know we can make a difference. Isn't that what you want too? To see him succeed. Jake turned, surprise flickering in his eyes, a spark of gratitude shimmering there for a fleeting moment. His mother's expression hardened, shifting the atmosphere into something colder. How dare you speak to me like this? You think you know my son's path better than I do? Emma inhaled sharply, the implication like a slap. I don't presume to know anything about your family, but I do know Jake, and he is capable of so much more. The tension was palpable, a taut line between the two women. Jake's mother opened her mouth, ready to dismiss Emma with another biting retort. But this time Jake interjected, "Mom, stop. You're missing the point. I'm serious about this. About us." A silence fell, thick and oppressive, as every person in the cafe held their breath, waiting for the dam to break and the chaos to unfold. His mother's expression shifted, calculating. "Then prove it. Show me. You have 1 month to turn this vision of yours into a reality. If you fail, everything ends. And you will be done playing house with this girl." Emma felt the world tilt as those words hung in the air. A ticking clock primed for detonation. "Do you understand, Jake?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper, fear and hope intertwining in a fragile balance. Jake's eyes met hers, and in that moment, Emma felt the storm within him brewing. This is it, she thought. Everything hinged on this, the future of them, their dreams, and it all felt fleeting. "Yeah," he said with a determined nod. "I understand." As his mother turned away, a triumphant look on her face, Emma felt dread settle deep in her chest. Could they really pull this off? The stakes had never felt higher. Emma looked at Jake. This was no longer just a battle for their aspirations. It was a fight for their very connection. Whatever happens next, it would either shatter them or bind them together. Would they rise to the challenge, or would the weight of family expectations crush them before they even had a chance to try? The cafe buzzed with whispers as Jake's mother strode away, her heels clicking against the tiled floor, each step a reminder of the ticking clock now counting against them. Emma and Jake stood there, an uncomfortable silence stretching between them, mingled with the muffled sounds of clinking cups and low conversations. What do we do now?" Jake asked, his voice strained but steadier than before. The fire of determination sparked in his eyes, yet a shadow lingered there too, a flicker of anxiety. Emma took a deep breath, her pulse quickening. "We need a plan. Something solid." The words poured out, her adrenaline kicking in. "We've got a month to turn everything around. We can't waste a second." Jake nodded, still processing the weight of what had just unfolded. He ran his hands through his hair, frustration creeping back in. "But how? She thinks this is just a joke. An escape. How do we convince her that this is serious?" "By showing her." Emma's mind raced. "We need to develop our project, get people interested, maybe even find investors. Something that'll make her see it's not just a dream." The light in Jake's eyes grew brighter. "Right. We could create a prototype. Something tangible she can't ignore." "Exactly," Emma replied, feeling the momentum shift just a bit. "Let us think about our ideas, the unique angle. What can we offer that no one else can?" A smile flickered across Jake's face as he began to envision their potential. "What if we incorporate community involvement? Get local businesses to sponsor us, maybe involve the community directly?" "Yes." Emma's heart raced at his enthusiasm. "The more people we involve, the more pressure we put on your mother to see this as a real movement, not just a whim." For a moment they stood united, the chatter of the cafe fading into the background. Each gazed into the depths of the other's eyes, a solid bond igniting a shared purpose that somehow felt more alive than it ever had before. Then a sudden laughter erupted at a nearby table, yanking Emma out of their bubble. She turned, her stomach twisting as she caught sight of Sarah, one of Jake's childhood friends. With her perfect hair and designer clothes, she looked like a portrait of privilege. But it was her mocking expression that sliced through Emma's confidence like a jagged knife. "Look at them," Sarah giggled to her friends, loud enough for Jake and Emma to hear. "Playing house like they're in some fairy tale. Anyone want to bet how long it'll last?" Heat surged through Emma's cheeks, and she wanted to retaliate but held back. No time for distractions. She needed to stay focused. "Let her think what she wants," Jake said, his voice low, tinged with anger. "We'll show her." "Yeah," Emma agreed, but doubt stirred within her, mixing with fear. Could they really do this? Did they stand a chance against the looming deadline and the skepticism? As they discussed strategies, something gnawed at Emma. The clock didn't just tick for their project, it ticked for Jake's relationship with his mother too. What if their efforts didn't just fail to impress, but instead drove a deeper wedge between them? Would their fight to create a future together lead to their undoing? She glanced at Jake. He seemed so resolved, yet painfully unaware of the landmines in his path. "Hey," she said, slipping into a soft tone. "Are you sure you're prepared for what this could mean? If we succeed, it could change everything. But if we fail," Jake held her gaze, his expression shifting from fierce determination to genuine concern. I know, he admitted, voice thick. But I also know that we can't give up before we've even tried. With a sudden flash of his usual charisma, he added, besides, what's the worst that could happen? We fight, we lose, but at least we fought together. That hit her hard. There was no denying Jake's unwavering belief in them. Maybe they did have a shot, but the gnawing uncertainty lingered. As the cafe's noise resumed its steady rhythm, Emma felt the weight of reality settle over them again. They needed to move fast. Time was not on their side, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What's our first step? Jake asked, nudging her back to the present. Before she could respond, the door swung open, allowing a cool breeze and a figure to drift inside. Their attention diverted, Emma's breath caught in her throat. It was Jake's mother. But she wasn't alone. A man followed behind her, someone strikingly familiar, with a heavy air of authority. Emma's heart dropped. Was that her father's old business partner? The one who had turned his back years ago? What in the world was happening? And why did she feel a chill crawl up her spine, as if the ground beneath her was about to give way? The air shifted as Jake's mother strode in, the high pitch of her heels echoing ominously through the cafe. Emma's heart raced. The man beside her had an air of authority that was hard to ignore. His sharp suit and the way he moved through the cafe, intent and calculating, sent cold shivers down Emma's spine. Mom? Jake's voice emerged cautiously, almost like a child seeking reassurance from a fading parent. His mother rapidly scanned the room, her gaze piercing, and when it landed on Jake, her anxiety smoothed into a cloak of steely resolve. We need to talk, Jake. Now. Less than a second passed before the heavy man beside her nodded toward the door. The movement felt orchestrated, like the quiet orchestration before the storm. What's going on? Jake and Emma exchanged looks of confusion, nerves spiraling between them. It's not a good time, Jake began, but his mother simply cut him off with a wave of her hand. Emma could see the tight lines forming around her jaw. Not a good time, she repeated, her tone sharper than the coffee pot that sat at the edge of their table. I think you need to understand how serious this is. I've made decisions. Emma's pulse quickened. Decisions about what? The urgency of the situation hung heavy in the air. Her fight-or-flight instinct kicked in, and she felt a twist in her stomach. We can't ignore this, Jake. If we talk here, it'll make everything worse, she urged, desperate but steady, wanting to protect him. You should follow her. Jake hesitated, his spirit momentarily wavering. Emma, we were at LLB fine, Emma insisted, cutting in. Let us just hear her out. With one last lingering look, Jake stood and followed his mother and that imposing man out of the cafe, leaving Emma behind, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. As Jake stepped out, Emma felt like a fish without water. She clutched her coffee cup, the ceramic hot against her palms, a flimsy shield against the looming dread. Anxiety built within her, tightening like a noose. Why did that man feel so familiar? A murmur rippled through the rest of the cafe patrons, their attention shifting toward the unfolding scene outside. Emma strained her neck to catch a glimpse, but the cafe's tall windows blurred her focus, like fogged glass obscuring the truth. Involuntarily, she leaned closer to the edge of her seat, the quiet chatter around her suddenly drowned out by her pounding heart. She noticed Sarah smirking with her friends, throwing glances Emma's way, enjoying the moment like a cat playing with a mouse. Look at this, Sarah whispered loud enough for Emma to hear. How sad. Think she'll chase after him, or just wallow in her little fantasy? A hot spike of anger coursed through Emma. At least I'm trying to build something, she retorted, catching several gazes now locked on her, shock lining their faces. But Emma didn't care. The truth was she felt invincible, stoked by the fearlessness of knowing that she and Jake were fighting together. The door swung open and Jake reappeared, his expression mixing determination with confusion. Emma, he began, but the words hung in the air like an unplayed note. He's working with her, Emma, Jake said finally, a tremor in his voice. My mom is in serious trouble. And it's got to do with our project. The world around them dimmed, the cafe fading to silence as anticipation gripped Emma. What does that even mean? It means, Jake hesitated, swallowing hard, if we go through with our project, we might be exposing someone we shouldn't. Something my mother has kept hidden for far too long. Each word he spoke made Emma's stomach churn. A secret? A danger? What could possibly unravel beneath their efforts? The world felt impossibly small as they stood there, together but on the brink of a precipice, the shadows of uncertainty looming darkly behind them. Jake, we can't just step back. We have to know what we're dealing with, Emma insisted, her voice firm. Jake nodded slowly, determination returning to his gaze. Then let us find out together. But deep down, Emma felt a dark foreboding nudging her, whispering. Uncertainty. What lay beneath the surface of Jake's mother's secret? How far would they have to go to uncover the truth? Emma's mind raced as she watched Jake's expression shift from confusion to determination. The air between them crackled with an urgency that felt electric, but the shadows closing in around them were growing darker. This just got real, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake stepped closer, his eyes wide. We have to meet after school. I need to talk to you about everything. We can't let my mom control this. Emma nodded, her heart pounding, but dread crept in. What if she tries to stop us? We can't back down, he replied, steel creeping into his voice. We need to dig deeper into what she is hiding. The day dragged into an agonizing blur, filled with hollow laughter from unintended jokes, and the distant echoes of chairs scraping across the floor. Emma's focus was a fragile thing, flickering like a candle in a windstorm. Every time she heard the school bell, her stomach twisted at the thought of Jake's mother lurking around the corner, waiting to snuff them out. Finally, as the afternoon dragged to a close, Emma found Jake leaning against a tree, his eyes fixed on the ground. Anxiety creased his brow, and his hands were fidgeting, pushing against the bark, as if seeking strength from the very earth. We need to be careful, he said, glancing around. I think they might be watching us. Who? Emma asked, her heart dropping at the thought of being hunted. The man with her. I don't think he is just a bodyguard, Jake breathed, fear barely concealed in his voice. I think he is involved in something much bigger. Emma's heart raced again. What do you mean? I overheard them, he replied, urgency rising in his tone. They were talking about how things needed to stay quiet. And then I heard my mother mention a name. Some guy named Vance. She said if he finds out. Vance? Who is he? Emma interrupted, her breath catching. Why did that name spark something in her memory? A name linked to my mother's past. Who knows what he'll do if he finds out we're digging into this? She felt as if the ground was shifting beneath her. What had they stumbled into? Look, Jake continued, pacing, we need a plan. If we're going to figure this out, we can't do it here. Not at school. We need a place where we can think clearly. Emma shifted uneasily, her mind racing with possibilities. What about the old library downtown? It's quiet, perfect for planning. Let us meet there tonight, Jake said, determination etching his features. We'll get to the bottom of this. As they exchanged hurried goodbyes, a chill crawled up Emma's spine. The sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows, and a weight hung over her shoulders. Something was coming, and it felt dark and dangerous. Hours later, as she stepped inside the library, the air felt thick and tense, charged with the secrets hiding between the dusty shelves. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, as if the very shadows had teeth lurking within their depths. Jake was already there, tapping a pencil nervously against the table scattered with open books. The atmosphere shifted when he spotted her, and the tension in his shoulders eased slightly. Did you bring the files? Emma asked, her heart thudding at the thought of what they might uncover. I did, he replied simply, flipping open his notebook. But we need to be careful. If Vance's people are watching, they'll be onto us before we even catch a breath. Weaponizing their fears, the pair began piecing together fragments of Jake's mother's past. As they worked, Emma felt the weight of anticipation settle over them like a fog, thick and unyielding. The deeper they dug, the more she sensed they were on the brink of something monumental, a revelation that could change everything. Suddenly, the door creaked open. The sound sliced through the air, and both Emma and Jake froze, the shadows tightening around them. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in darkness, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. What if it's him? She whispered, panic lacing her words. Jake's face drained of color. If it is, we might have just crossed a line we can't uncross, and in that moment, uncertainty twisted into fear, whispering that maybe this secret was better left buried, along with the past. But just as their hearts threatened to burst from their chests, The figure stepped into a beam of light. Emma gasped, recognizing the face she had seen only in fleeting dreams. "It's time to learn the truth," the stranger said, holding something out as a sinister smile tugged at the corners of their lips. What had they stumbled into? Would learning the truth save them, or lead them into an even darker abyss? Emma's pulse quickened, a mix of dread and curiosity flooding her veins as she recognized the stranger. It was Lily, her childhood friend, but the years had twisted her into a haunting visage of the girl Emma once knew. Once carefree and vibrant, Lily now wore an expression that was sharp and shadowed with secrets. "What are you doing here, Lily?" Emma's voice trembled, each word a careful step on fragile ground. "I came because I thought you might need help," Lily replied, her voice a whisper but her intent clear. She stepped closer, holding out her hand. In it rested a small black notebook, well-worn and frayed at the edges. "Your hunch about Vance was right. The night we met it set everything in motion." Emma's eyes flicked to Jake, who stood frozen, wide-eyed and pale. He shifted, taking a step forward. "What do you know about Vance?" he demanded, voice steadier than Emma felt. Lily hesitated, casting a wary glance toward the door. "We don't have much time," she insisted. "You have to understand why I'm here. Vance is complicated. He.S. dangerous. The last time I saw your mom, Jake, she was scared, and I knew she was tangled in something terrible." Emma felt the weight of 100 questions bubble in her chest. What does he want? Why does he care about your mom? Lily's expression darkened, her eyes reflecting the dim light of the library. "Yes, not just any guy. He's involved in things that you wouldn't even begin to understand, powers that can ruin lives. Your mom, she's part of this mess." Before they could process her words, the door creaked again. All three froze as the figure of a man emerged, tall and imposing. The faint flicker of a streetlight outside illuminated his face, sharply framing the harsh lines of determination and menace. "Don't say anything," Jake hissed, stepping protectively in front of Emma and Lily. The man's eyes skimmed over them, an unsettling confidence washing over him like a predator scenting a fresh kill. "Ah, young Jake," the man said, a sly smirk twisting his lips. "I didn't expect to find you here. And with company, no less." His gaze lingered on Emma, assessing with a hunger that sent chills racing down her spine. "Who are you?" Emma managed, dread pooling in her stomach. He straightened, an air of authority enveloping him. "I'm here to ensure that your little investigation doesn't continue. You both are playing a dangerous game, and I wouldn't want to see you get hurt. Leave us alone," Jake shouted, though his voice wavered. "You have no power here." A laugh escaped the man, low and mocking. "Oh, Jake, you've no idea the power at play. Vance won't let this continue. You think you're uncovering a truth? You're just scratching the surface of a very dark secret." Emma's heart raced in a furious tempo, and she shot a quick glance toward Lily, whose face was pale with horror. "What are we even dealing with?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling. "Enough. The truth can be a terrible burden, especially for those who are unprepared to carry it." With that, the man moved as if he were a dark shadow himself, gliding toward the exit. "Wait!" Jake screamed, but the man didn't turn back. "What does Vance want?" Outside the dim light of the library, the man turned, the darkness swallowing his figure. "You'll find out soon enough unless you decide to back off." His voice hung in the air, a grim warning laced with lingering threat. Emma's throat tightened as silence enveloped the room. The three of them huddled together, hearts racing. They were at a precipice, teetering on the edge of a truth that could unravel their lives entirely. "What do we do now?" Emma whispered, fear brushing against hope. "We chase the truth," Jake replied, his voice firm, though the uncertainty in his eyes betrayed him. "But we need to be prepared for anything." As the door slammed shut behind the mysterious man, the weight of their choice settled over them, thick as fog and just as confounding. Would they have the courage to face what lay ahead? Or would the darkness consume them before they could uncover Vance's truth? Just then Emma felt her phone vibrate violently in her pocket. Was it her mom? Or had they already been tracked? She pulled it out, her hands trembling, the screen lighting up with a message that read, "You need to stop looking into Vance. Now." The chill raced back, leaving them poised on the brink of discovery with nowhere to turn. Will they dive deeper? Or will they heed the warning and retreat from the abyss? Emma stared at the message, its severity seeping into her bones. Her grip on the phone tightened as her heart raced. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Maybe it's a prank," Jake offered, but his eyes said otherwise. The man's warning echoed in the hushed library. They were playing with fire, and she could almost hear the flames crackling. Lily stepped closer, her hand shaking as she pointed at the notebook. This is why I came. I thought it might help us understand. It's got everything I learned about Vance, his connections." "What if it's too late?" Emma said hoarsely, glancing at the door, half expecting the menacing figure to return. "What if we're already in danger?" "Danger is everywhere," Jake replied sharply, determination hardening his features. "Hiding one T help us. We need to get to the bottom of this." Lily nodded, urgency filling her voice. "We have to look at the notebook. If we truly want to know what Vance is involved in, we have to face it." Emma glanced at Lily, then back at Jake. They were standing on the edge of a chasm, teetering precariously. "Okay," she whispered, "let's see what it says." Sitting at an old table in the corner, they crowded around the notebook, the air thick with apprehension. Emma opened it carefully. The pages were filled with erratic scrawls, a mix of sketches and frantic notes that told a story they had yet to fully understand. "Look here," Jake pointed, tracing a line with his finger. A name jumped out at them. "Thompson. That was my mom's friend. She mentioned him once, said he was tangled up in something shady." Emma's stomach twisted. What did she mean? "Thompson is connected to Vance. The way this is written, it sounds like he's one of them," Lily said, flipping to another page. "See their essay list of names here. They're all interlinked. This goes deeper than we thought." But as they scanned the lines, Emma felt a rising unease. The further they looked, the more complex it became. It was a web, a conspiracy almost too big to fathom. "What are we even getting ourselves into?" she breathed. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the library. Emma's heart skipped a beat. They weren't alone. The three of them turned, eyes wide with fear. "Get out now," Jake urged, his voice low, filled with a quiet urgency. They jumped to their feet, the notebook forgotten for the moment. Emma could feel the icy grip of panic tightening around her chest. They moved toward the exit, but as Emma reached for the door, it swung open violently. A figure stumbled in, gasping for breath, eyes wide with the terror of having been chased. "Help, they're coming." Emma stepped back, instincts screaming at her to run. But something in the stranger's eyes, maybe it was desperation or fear, anchored her. Who is coming?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling before the man could answer. An echo of heavy footsteps reverberated through the library, drawing closer. The man's eyes darted over Emma and Jake, filled with unspoken urgency. "They know you're here. You have to trust me." Jake gripped Emma's arm, pulling her back as they exchanged frantic glances. "Emma, what do we do?" In that moment, the floor seemed to tilt beneath them. Should they trust this stranger and plunge further into chaos? Or flee and risk Vance's web ensnaring them completely? The footsteps were nearing, loud and menacing. Emma felt a prickling at her neck, time running out like sand through fingers. "Make a choice now," the man urged, his voice nearly drowned out by the heavy thuds approaching. Emma took a deep breath, her heart pounding a rapid tattoo. What lay ahead could shatter them, but perhaps there was no turning back now. "Follow me," she whispered, thrusting open the library door, stepping into the unknown. But as they hurried away, a chilling realization gripped her. The moment they left that room, they'd crossed an invisible line into a world of danger that might never let them return. What awaited them on the other side? Emma shivered, but she had to know. The night air was thick with tension as Emma, Jake, and Lily darted through the library doors into the dimly lit streets. The weight of their newfound reality pressed down hard, each heartbeat echoing in their chests. They could still hear the menacing footsteps from the library, a constant reminder of the predators lurking just beyond their reach. Did they truly want to chase this dangerous truth? Or had they already stepped into a web too intricate to escape? "Where do we go?" Emma gasped, her breath short and urgent as they navigated through the narrow alley behind the library. "Just keep moving. I know a place," Jake urged, gripping her hand tightly as uncertainty hung heavily in the air like a storm cloud. They fled through the tangled maze of streets, adrenaline pumping through their veins, urgency driving them forward. As Jake led them, worry crinkled his brow. What had they uncovered? What darkness were they inviting into their lives? His eyes darted around, scanning for clues, trying to sense if Vance's henchmen were on their trail. The trio ducked into a small, forgotten coffee shop on the corner, its neon sign buzzing faintly in the night. It felt like a sanctuary, though Emma knew it was merely a momentary respite. "Are we safe here? How did we get into this mess?" she whispered, watching the worry etch deeper lines on Jake's handsome face. Jake exhaled slowly, frustration boiling in his voice. "I don't know. We were just trying to help. But it seems like there's something more, something my mom has kept hidden. Maybe Vance isn't the only threat." Lily shifted nervously by the window, her eyes darting to the darkened street outside. "We need to piece this together. Those notes, whatever Vance is tied to, it's not just business. Feels personal." Emma shook her head, feeling the weight of ignorance settle thick like fog. "How can we stop this? I don't want to be pulled into some dark family secrets, but we can't just walk away now. We have to stand up for ourselves." Just as she finished her thought, someone crashed against the door, breathing heavily as they pushed it open. It was the stranger from the library, his expression wild. "They're coming." "Who?" Jake demanded, instinctively moving in front of Emma, ready to protect her at all costs. "Vance's men. We have to move now." He barely got the words out before the air shifting like the impending chaos. "Follow me," he shouted, leading them out the back. They plunged into the shadowy streets again, desperation driving their footsteps. Every flicker of sound sent shivers down Emma's spine as they ran past streetlights that flickered ominously, casting dancing shadows that seemed to stalk them. "Where are you taking us?" Emma cried out, breathless but fueled with determination. "To safety. I can explain everything there." The stranger led them to an old warehouse, its structure sagging, looking as forgotten as their plans just moments before. He ushered them inside a vast, dark space with crates piled high and shadows hanging low. Here, in the dim light, he finally introduced himself. "I'm Max. My father works with Vance and I've been trying to figure this out too. We can't let him find you." "Why do you care?" Lily squinted, suspicion knitting her brow. "Because I know too much and I want to unravel this just like you do." He glanced around nervously. "Vance has plans, deep-rooted schemes that ruin lives. You've already walked into this. I just want you to come out alive." A silence stretched between them as their conflicting emotions settled in. They were united in their fear now, but still uncertain. "What do we do now?" Emma asked, her heart thrumming in sync with the eerie ambience of the warehouse. Max looked intense, a storm brewing in his steel-gray eyes. "We need to expose him. Get evidence of what he's doing. If we rally enough support and show the truth, maybe we can take him down." Emma took a shaky breath, feeling the pulse of reality echoing through her. This path was dangerous, but the thought of backing down terrified her even more. "What if we fail?" Jake asked, quietly, the weight of that possibility heavy in the air. Emma stepped closer to him, grounding herself in his presence. "We have to choose this. We've come too far to let fear dictate our next move." She felt a flicker of strength igniting within her, as bright as a flame against the shadows. "Okay, let us do it," Jake said, his tone matching the spark in her eyes. "Together." "Together," they all echoed. Max smiled, a connection igniting the room between them, underlining the bond of urgency and shared purpose. They began to strategize with fervor, ready to challenge Vance's empire with determination and solidarity. But even as they clung to hope, uncertainty loomed large in the air, licking at their heels. Outside, the night pulsed with hidden danger. Just how far would Vance go to silence them? As they turned toward a stack of boxes that cradled hints of their salvation, Emma felt a burn of resolve within. They couldn't afford to turn back. To stand for something bigger than themselves, that was the only way out now. Emma stole a glance at Jake, his fervor reminding her of the electric energy that had once thrown them together. They might face darkness, but they would also fight for light. They had a chance to become something more than the lives they were handed. The mere thought kept her grounded as the shadows whispered around them, a storm waiting to break free. "Let us get to work," Emma said. And with that, they plunged into action with a fierce determination that bound them tighter in this swirling storm. Now, as you've reached the thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss future stories packed with excitement and intrigue. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this story unfolds. Only true fans support the channel by doing this.